Do I know for a fact that there is no God? No. I'm going to say that, and I know that's going to upset some people, but no, I don't think I could prove to you that God doesn't exist, just like I couldn't prove to you there's a flying pink unicorn in this room right now, just like I couldn't prove there's a flying spaghetti monster out there. I don't think you can disprove someone's belief. That said, the definition of atheist, as far as I've always considered it, as far as I've seen anywhere that matters, the definition of atheist is not someone who knows God doesn't exist or who could prove to you God doesn't exist. It's someone who doesn't believe God exists. You know, if you take God out of the picture, my entire world functions the exact same way. And so God doesn't change that for me. So why throw something in there that doesn't make any sense? I've never seen any evidence to suggest that God exists. And every time when I was growing up, I thought I had that evidence. I thought I knew, like, oh, like, look, that that parking spot is open. God must like me. Or, you know, something good happened in my life. God must be looking out for me. And now I realize, oh, a lot of that's just coincidence. And a lot of that might have happened even if God didn't exist. So usually anytime, I think the burden of proof is on religious people to explain to me why God exists. And every single time what they give me are anecdotes and personal testimonies, which, you know, okay, that worked for you, but that's not proof. That's just something that you went through. And maybe if I went through the same thing, I would have a different explanation for it. It's funny because you sometimes hear, especially Christians will say like, oh no, someone prayed and their limb grew back or something crazy like that. And it's like, oh really? Where's the video evidence of that? Because no one's ever seen it. There's even a website called like why doesn't God heal amputees.com, or I hope I'm getting that right. But that's the idea that Christians, especially because they're the ones who tend to go around doing apologist work, they can never prove to you why God does exist. They have stories, they have anecdotes, they don't have proof. And so they always try to throw the burden on atheists to do something that no one else would be expected to do, which is prove to me that my delusions are wrong. Well, I can't. What I can show you is that when you take God out of the picture, we can make sense of just about anything. And then when it comes to things like, you know, where did the universe come from? Why are we here on Earth? Or at least, you know, I think the universe question is more than philosophical. Where did this universe come from? I think we have some theories, and we could legitimately say, I don't have an answer to that. What I'm not doing is jumping to this radical conclusion that, well, God must have poofed it into existence. I don't have to do that. I can be honest and say, there are some things I don't know. There are some things I may never know. But everything else, I can try to find an explanation for it. In fact, that's what scientists do all the time. They find explanations for things that we used to, you know, attribute to God. There's even an argument called like God of the gaps, where, you know, if you say God did all of this stuff, and then we find reasonable explanations for all of those things, we're painting God into the smaller and smaller gap until at some point even that's going to go away. So it's a silly idea to say that God does all this stuff when we have natural explanations for it. It's silly to make atheists explain why God doesn't exist, because, I mean, you can't explain to me why there's no unicorn in the air right now that's invisible and you can't see it or touch it. I mean, we could make up any symbol. I think Bertrand Russell had the flying teapot going around the universe. Like, you can't disprove it, so I guess it must be there. And we all know that's a silly argument. But, you know, it gets very personal when you're talking about God instead of a teapot. And that's why I think people are averse to talking about it. My name is Hemant Mehta. I write at friendlyatheist.com. And if you have any questions you'd like me to answer or any comments about what you just heard, leave them in the comments below and we'll take care of that.